Welcome to this episode of Part of the Arts with me, Rebecca Godden, where we are joined by the vibrant Olivia Williamson, an actor, singer and content creator who's making waves both on stage and online. From pantomimes and musicals to being on the TV, Olivia's passion for performing shines through everything she does. But she's not just known for her stage presence. Online, she's the Stagey ADHDer, where she shares candid and empowering content about navigating the industry as a performer living with ADHD. Her honesty, humour and insight have built a supportive community and sparked important conversation around neurodivergence in the arts. So in this episode, we talk about Olivia's favourite roles, the challenges and superpowers of ADHD in performance, and balancing this content creation with acting. And we hope to see what she does next. It's a chat full of inspiring, real talk and stagey energy. So let's get into it. Hi, Olivia. Welcome to Part of the Arts.
Oh, thank you. Hello. Welcome back. Thank you. Sorry. Oh my gosh. Not me scrambling already. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. It's okay. We can be tongue-tied. It's absolutely fine. Well, I was just saying to you, I've been learning 3 scripts for 3 different shows, and I feel like I've lost the ability to talk,
Honestly,
even though I've just been talking constantly.
it's one of those moments where like a waiter comes up to you and says, you know, here's your bill, and you're like, yeah, here's yours, or happy birthday, you too. I'm just all constantly doing those things.
Yeah, you too. Happy birthday, you too. Well, do you know what? That brings us really nicely onto my icebreaker. I feel like you've already broken the ice. You're brilliant. But what was the last thing you said or did where you were maybe in one of those situations where you thought that really should have just stayed in my head, that shouldn't have come out into the world?
Oh, I'm really doing this all the time, but I'd say like a arts related one was when I was filming a show on ITV. It was a reality show and we had to do a little bit of VT, behind the scenes sort of thing, and they asked me to tell a joke and I couldn't think of one for ages.
That's so hard though, you know, when someone says,
isn't it?
tell me a joke, and you're like,
Yeah.
I
Literally, and all I could think was knock, who's there? But then I told a joke, and after they were laughing, but they went, "This is before 9 p.m." So
watershed. Yeah,
but we can't share that, I'm afraid.
I love that. Are you allowed to share the joke with us? This is not a watershed podcast.
Okay, it was how did Cinderella get to the? No, what did Cinderella say when she got to the ball?
I don't know. What did Cinderella say when she got to the ball?
Cue gagging sounds.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah.
Very rude.
I'd
just been told it, and it was the only one that came to mind.
And they were like, who is this person?
And they were literally marketing me as like a cute Disney teacher. And I was like, yeah,
you like gagging.
Yeah.
I mean, do you know what? I'm going to remember that one though. I'm going to remember it. I love that. I mean, great. I liked it. I found it funny. Talking of like, you know, being in things, what's the last thing you saw or watched or consumed or read that kind of left you with a spark that inspired you within your own craft?
I'd say for me it was Adolescence on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
So good. And I just really think when the one shot kind of thing really incorporates both TV and live theatre, because you're having to remember all those lines. You know, with most TV and film, you do a few lines at a time, even like the scenes, and they cut so often. But with something like that goes straight through, like you probably get the buzz of live theatre, but obviously it's accessible for everyone because, you know, most people now have access to Netflix or streaming services. So it was amazing, and the message as well. Just
yeah. Wow. I mean, guys, if you've not seen it yet, you're living under a rock. So I was about to say like no spoilers, but come on, like it's short. It's a short series. But actually, this isn't a spoiler. This is just about the creation. Exactly what you were saying. I don't know about you, but I went down a rabbit hole on YouTube and social media afterwards, looking at all the interviews, because they've done so many interviews, haven't they, about the process. And there's this one on YouTube where it says how many. So they did each episode. They did 10 takes of each episode.
Yeah.
So it was like exactly what you said, like like a show run, like a West End show run,
Mm.
where you're doing 8 to 10 shows a week, you know, of the same thing. But then they obviously picked the best one,
Yeah.
made it to the screen. And the YouTube series on it, or the interview on it, basically tells you which episode, which shots made each episode. So
Yeah.
we recorded 10 of each episode. The episode 2 that you saw was the second shot.
Which is just amazing, isn't it?
Incredible, isn't it? That they
Yeah.
just kind of, and like you said, the actors themselves said they felt like they were in a play, they were fully immersed in it, and all of those emotions that they got to in the end of each episode was raw,
Yeah.
because you're feeling it. And I loved, I'm mainly a theatre and stage performer. I don't do a lot of screen acting currently. It was just great, I think, for the masses to understand the process.
Yeah.
We told the process of how a play works and how actors perform, not for TV, not for film. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was funny actually watching a lot of these interviews. I watched the one on this morning, and they had such a focus on remembering all those lines.
Yeah.
But really, most actors can learn lines. You know, they had a long time to rehearse and everything like that. The talent was not necessarily in the memory skills. It was in the emotion, like you said, and being in that character, and sympathizing with those different emotions that the character felt, really.
Yeah, it was the immersion, wasn't it? It was good. It was, you know, fully feeling it and being exhausted from doing all those takes, but that also layered their performance. And I just loved it. But yeah, it did make me chuckle a little bit though, when everyone, you know, on socials kept being like, oh, it's just like a play, and how do they remember it all? And I'm like, well, yeah, that's what theatre performers do on a reg.
Yeah.
A lot of the time we do it for not even like a full West End run. It will be a few shows, if that, and then it's done, and then you're on to the next thing. You're like,
even for auditions, sometimes having to learn 5 sides in like a day.
Exactly. And then you're like, at least with this one, yes, they had to remember a lot. Yes, they shot it like 10 times and took the best take, but it's there forever.
Yeah, exactly.
And thank God it's there forever, because it was beautiful. It was challenging, heart-wrenching, but beautiful and important, like you said. Yeah, if you've not watched it, guys, like, you need to watch it, because especially guys, actually.
Yeah. Young men, and also parents.
Yeah, young men, parents of young men, parents of anyone, and just just that's all we'll say. We don't need to say any more. We didn't do any spoilers. Well done us. We actually didn't. And you touched a bit, you know, upon like what it is like to be in our industry. You know, we speak about it a lot, obviously, on this podcast. How did you get into the industry? Kind of, how did your journey start? Where did it take you? And then where did it adapt to now, to where you are?
Yeah, well, I've always loved performing. My mum was a dancer growing up, so I've kind of come from a stagey background. Did the typical drama school route. I went to the London School of Musical Theatre, which I loved. Then I graduated in 2019 and went out into the auditioning world, but then obviously we were hit with the pandemic. So that was tricky, because I felt like I was building up that momentum of getting to know casting directors, getting a little bit further each time, kind of getting comfortable with my audition material. And then, as for every performer, the COVID really just kind of set back all that progress that I've made. And that was a real hard thing for all of us, really. And it kind of made me go back to the drawing board and think, so much of my kind of self-worth and kind of purpose came from performing, and that wasn't really an option anymore. I really had to think about what to do and find myself, as cliche as that sounds.
Not at all. I think a lot of us got forced to do that, didn't we? To internally look within.
Exactly. And that was helpful in a way, because when I then started auditioning again a few years later, I just found it so much easier, because the pressure wasn't on. I was kind of like, this is me, let's see if I can do this, but if not, I've got my teaching, I've got this, I've got that. And yeah, I then in 2021 got my first role. I played Belle in Beauty and the Beast in a panto, and it kind of went upwards from there. Obviously as you'll know, not many people are lucky enough to go from big job to job to job to job. But give or take a few months, I've been quite busy since then, which is, yeah, I'm really lucky.
Good for you. Like, you came out the other side, and you mentioned just there, you know, you've been in pantomimes, musicals, TIE, and kind of TV, reality, and other. Like, what have been some of your favourite roles to date?
Oh, there's so many. I do love kids theatre. I find that so fun. Last summer, me and a man called Harry, we did Errol's Garden, and that was a two-hander kids show
Oh,
and a tour, and it was just so much fun because the kids really loved it. The two of us played all of the
of
characters,
course, character
as you
actor
do.
within kids and family theatre. It's a
Yeah.
given, right?
And it was just so much fun, and I would absolutely love to do a lot more serious roles, and I'm getting into TV and film at the moment, but I do think every Christmas doing a pantomime, it's just so rewarding and fun,
Yeah.
and everyone can kind of make fun of themselves a little bit. There's not
Oh,
as much pressure.
yeah, you don't take yourself too seriously because the audience isn't, the
Yeah.
cast aren't, like, everyone's in it for fun. And I'm so with you. I feel like for me, I've spoken about this before, Christmas doesn't really start until I've been in or seen a panto.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's kind of like it's nice to have that. And yeah, you're right, and it's such a skill. And I think what you were just saying with Errol's Garden, being a character actor and having to do all those multi roles, that's only helped you surely for panto, and
Yeah.
to be those bigger, larger than life performances. Because, you know, I direct theatre as well, and I always say to my participants, especially younger ones or my participants with learning disabilities, because I direct for a learning disabled company, I say, I want more panto it up.
Yeah.
And they just know what that means. Like, they just know, you know, instead of going overact, because I
Yeah.
hate that term, because it's not, it's just a nuanced way of acting.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's
panto it
more
up.
British fun, I think,
Yeah.
is panto.
Give me some panto. Give me some like quirkiness that the British public will understand and get, like your audience, like cater to your audience. So yeah, that's really lovely. And you're trained in musical theatre, aren't you? So singing, dance, drama.
Yeah.
Me too. That was my background. What do you do the most of?
I'd
The
say
three kind of disciplines, like including your teaching, like within your kind of life. Because I always find that as I've gone through my journey, like 10 plus years in the industry, each year I'm using one more than the other.
yeah, no, I totally agree. I'd say generally speaking, singing is what I do the most. I've been in some like bands, and I gig as a solo singer as well as kind of being in musicals. I used to be a singing teacher on the weekends as well. So that was probably what I was doing, but now it's kind of switched to drama. I'm teaching more acting classes,
Nice.
bridging into kind of more TV and film, and also last Christmas was actually the first time I didn't do a panto. I did a play instead.
Did you?
Oh, nice.
It was the first year in forever that I didn't do a panto.
Yeah, and it's so
weird.
strange. And I really enjoyed it. It was acting, and it was a Christmas play, which I did really enjoy doing something a little bit different.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the moment I'm quite acting focused.
Good. Nice. That's great. But do you find that there is always one discipline that kind of takes the lead a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you had to pick, oh my gosh, this is gonna be such a hard question. I've just pulled this out of my mind. If you had to pick one discipline to focus on for the rest of your life, you could only pick one.
So hard.
What would it be?
That's so hard.
I know, that was really mean. I just thought of it and was like, I just feel like I want to know.
You know what? If I could still sing in my personal life just for fun, then I would say acting.
I think I'm with you on that. I think I do acting as well, because there's a broad range of what acting is, you know, the different styles. You were saying you've got your character acting, you've got your straight acting, you've got your, even puppetry would come under acting.
Exactly.
You know, you've got all your different things. I think, yeah, don't worry, it wouldn't be like the Little Mermaid. I wouldn't take your voice away from you.
That's fine then.
It wouldn't be like Ariel, where I'm like, you no longer have a singing voice. That
just
doesn't
mine.
Oh yeah, if I took your voice away, then it would just be, you'd be a mime clown.
Physical theatre. That's fun though.
Yeah, oh, I love physical theatre. Yeah, you just have to go into a fully physical role. But we'd
Yeah.
never want to do that, Olivia, because you've got a beautiful voice. You can kind of see it all over your socials and hear it all over your socials even. And I wanted to talk about that, kind of being a content creator and your online presence. So you're known as the Stagey ADHDer, as one of your profiles. I know you've got a few. You've also got is it Livs Reads
Yeah,
or
it reads a book, my little bookstagram.
oh, I got it. I loved that in lockdown when you started that, because
Oh,
I would
thank you.
find things to read. That was
Yeah.
great. So kind of how do you balance your kind of your content creation with being a gigging performer and with your ADHD? Like, how does that all slot in? Like, how do you do it?
It's a tricky one, and I think for someone who's not naturally an oversharer, it would be quite hard. I, on the other hand, am a massive oversharer, and I think before I was a performer, I was always kind of sharing everything anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm also quite creative, so I think for me, social media is a way to share, but I've kind of now been able to tailor it to hopefully be entertaining or helpful depending on the post for others as well. And when I'm not in a job, I would say that it's kind of been a side hustle for me and a focus, so it kind of helps me if anything. And I've even got jobs through Instagram,
Me
which
too.
is wild.
When that happens, right? That
Yeah.
must be an absolute, it's only happened to me like once, but it must be an absolute like synergy, right? And
Yeah,
that does make you think, oh, okay, this is coming hand in hand.
exactly.
Yeah. What job did you get? Are you allowed to say?
Yeah, it was Romeo and Duet,
Oh,
which
oh,
was
the reality show where you said the crude joke.
yeah. Yeah, and I've also found some other like little things that then I've messaged my agent about and done it that way.
And also, do you find that using, especially Instagram or TikTok, like using it as a bit of a portfolio? So if you do see something on a stagey page, like a
Yeah,
call out or something,
yeah,
if you slide into their DMs, they immediately can go on to your kind of curated grid and they can
yeah.
see you in the spotlight through what you've put out there.
It's exactly that. In fact, the other day, I actually was applying for a presenter role for children, and it just so happened that the same day we had a pajama party at my work,
Oh,
and with like within the safeguarding measures, like blur face
yeah.
for kids who haven't got
Well, I
these.
saw that you had some emojis on some
Yeah,
people.
exactly. I posted the photo and I thought, wow, this is great because I'm posting
It's
naturally, I'm sharing my life, but also this is great for the job that I'm applying for at the moment. And they can go on my page and see, oh great, she's with kids, she knows she knows what she's doing.
working with kids, tick. They look like they're having fun.
Yeah, exactly.
There's you like, okay, everyone smile. I need this job. No, not at all. I can imagine you are brilliant with kids. And then talking kind of about the Stagey ADHDer, and what inspired you to start sharing your experiences, like, again, nichely as a performer living with ADHD? Like, can you talk us through that? I know it hasn't been, that long since you got your diagnosis. So if you feel comfortable to,
Yeah,
would you kind of
sure.
share that journey with us from diagnosis to how, one, the diagnosis helped you,
Yeah.
and two, to kind of how the content creation has formed from that, and how that's also helping you and others.
Yeah. Well, I've always been kind of quite passionate about sharing about mental health, and on social media it's always kind of like the highlights and like I'm always happy. So in lockdown, obviously a lot of us struggled with emotions and mental health, so I was always kind of sharing my mental health journey on my socials anyway. But then it did get to a point where I was just really struggling and I didn't have any kind of explanations. I've been going to therapy on and off my whole life, and I kind of felt like I'd worked through everything, every kind of obstacle, all my childhood trauma I'd worked through. And so it got to the point where I was like, why am I still struggling so much just day-to-day life? Anyway, my therapist first said in 2022, I think maybe you're neurodivergent. It feels like there's a lot of symmetry with being kind of overwhelmed, you perceiving rejection and quite often, and basically a lot of ADHD traits. so eventually when I got my diagnosis in 2023, and it just made sense. I did so much research. I'm a bit of a hyper focus queen, as some people say. If I'm interested in something, I will spend the next 24 hours learning everything about that thing.
Yeah.
And so when I learned about ADHD, it kind of just explained everything. So then I was kind of sick of being like, oh, I'm anxious, but I don't know why. You know, I don't know why I'm so sensitive about this thing. I've stayed in bed all day and I can't help it. I'm not even tired. Like, it was just all these things that just having a name for made it so much easier for me to kind of understand myself and therefore find things to help me move forward and help me have the best quality of life. Really, that's what I really feel that diagnosis has given me. And yeah, I wanted to share that because I've been sharing my mental health journey anyway. It just made sense to me to say, well, actually, yeah, this is what it is. This is why I've been feeling this way.
Yeah. And how does, you know, your ADHD impact your approach to acting and singing, like both positively and in terms of challenges? You know, with auditions coming in last minute and things, you know, have you got, there must be kind of overwhelm and things that come with that. I mean, I get that without having, you know, living with ADHD. So I can imagine that there are times when it's a lot.
Yeah, it is definitely a lot. And I think it's one of those things that the pros outweigh the cons. Otherwise, I would probably struggle. But I definitely find it hard, the rejection. You know, everyone does, but it's something that I've kind of just learned to not take personally. And I think that's kind of the most important thing, because I was very much, especially as a child, if I said anything that maybe someone didn't smile or laugh at, I'd be like, they hate me. They actually, like, no one likes me. And that would just be the place I jumped to. But through doing this job, I've kind of learned, oh, okay, I just wasn't right for this part, or they had the skills for this, and
letting go.
Yeah, exactly.
It is interesting you say that, though. I think I've spoken to a lot of women in my industry, in our industry, and obviously I am also a woman. And even, you know, that resonated with me. I felt exactly the same as a child. I felt like a monkey in a way. You know, I had to kind of please everyone, and I had to perform in a way to everyone. And if exactly what you said, if I did something wrong, especially around adults, and they, you know, they didn't appreciate, I don't know, the joke I made exactly, like, or like weren't enjoying my conversation or told me off, I'd feel like I was rejected and absolutely hated. And that has also gone through with my peers, just kind of like in my early adolescence, you know, within early kind of in your kind of tween phase. So I do think as well there's something to be said about being a woman.
Yeah, 100%. I think women do experience so much more rejection than men. And also, I did see a statistic somewhere that said women are less likely to apply for a job that they're not qualified for than a man. And that is because of that fear of rejection. It's like, okay, well, what if I go for it and they say, well, you haven't got the skills? Then it's like, because
we've all had that when we've looked at our CV, we've looked at a job spec and we've gone, no, I don't have it. Whereas a guy might go, oh, well, I'll just go for it anyway, which we all should be doing, because at the end of the day, there might be something in there that employer sees and goes, I like that, I'm going to interview them. And getting in the room, as we know, for an audition is the hardest thing, but it's the best thing. But I think growing up as a woman and having societal pressures is awesome, and that layered onto being neurodivergent, I can only imagine how much that affects you.
I think it's the difference, I think, with general rejection and then the neurodivergent side of it, especially with ADHD, is that everyone experiences that rejection, but it's kind of how a person can deal with it. So, for example, I have RSD, rejection sensitive dysphoria, and that's like when I do perceive or get rejection, it's this like, intense emotional pain that just makes me shut down, and then I can't even like get out of bed or do day-to-day tasks, because I'm just kind of like paralyzed in that kind of, well, that low mood and that fear of kind of no one likes me, and it's kind of a physical manifestation.
Yeah.
And that
It consumes you, like it
yeah,
can't wash over you. It is like in you.
yeah. And I think a lot of my friends can resonate with that rejection, but I kind of always envied how once they talk it through with someone, they could be like, yeah, you're probably right. Like, yeah. Whereas for me, it's like, it's a kind of a battle between my logic and
Yeah.
then my nervous system. My logic knows, yes, that's probably right, but my body's like,
Like,
no.
I can't take it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that must be again, like what you were saying, without having a term for it or having a diagnosis or having an understanding. And like you said, you're so great at doing your own research, and that hyperfixation is a great thing to help yourself and help others. I can't even imagine how horrible that must be for someone who doesn't have the toolkit or the understanding and really just doesn't know. And that's obviously what you were experiencing before 2022 when you started your journey of understanding.
Exactly that. And yeah, now I do have those tools. I just found it so much easier to kind of compartmentalize and let go and move on from that rejection, or because sometimes it is just my brain and how it works, kind of give myself the just allowing myself to be like, okay, yes, I do feel this way, and that's because of this, and that's okay, and I will get through it like I have the 100 of other times I've got through it.
Yeah, and I talk a lot about, with again, I think we're very good at giving other people advice, again, probably as women, and not necessarily taking it ourselves. I talk a lot about giving ourselves grace.
Yeah.
I'm talking to my performers that I direct or facilitate or whatever, and also, them giving me grace as a director. Like, I'm not always going to get it right, and we talk a lot about that within within one of my job roles particularly. And I'm a practicing Christian. I think you are as well.
I've been in my Christian era recently. I was just journey of self-discovery.
Pepper through your Instagram and you're wearing your cross, and I did think, I was like, oh, amazing. And I was like, I'd love to chat to you about that, because I was going to say, do you find that your faith helps you as well, kind of giving things over to God, like having this higher being, that not everything rests on your shoulders? I know I certainly feel that way. And I've not been a Christian my whole life, and I think, when did I find faith? I think it was 2017 I found faith.
That's interesting.
So as an adult, and I hadn't been brought up in a Christian household or with Christianity or any kind of faith within my world at all up until that point. And since then, I mean, it's always a challenge. We're always broken, we're never fully fixed, but since then it has made me worry less. I've always been an overthinker, a worrier, as my kind of family would call me. Becca's just a bit of a worrier. But actually knowing that there's a greater power, and that it's not all on me. God has a plan. Of course, I can plan my life and help myself, but it's not all about me, and it's not all on me, and not everything has to rest on my shoulders. And I find prayer a really great toolkit to kind of let go of that. I was just wondering how your faith helps you as well.
Definitely. I think faith on its own, not just in God, but in yourself and in everything, is so powerful, really, because it is just, I would say faith is kind of peace. It's just that, like, that hope, that and
hope, that word,
knowing that it's going to be okay. And it's definitely becoming a Christian and having that kind of bigger world view. It kind of puts everything in perspective, really, doesn't it? You kind of think, it's not going to be the end of the world if this doesn't happen or that doesn't happen. As long as I'm trying my best to be a good person and loving people and being kind, like that's all that matters.
Yes, like walking with Jesus as Jesus would, helping people. Jesus worked with everyone, and helped everyone. And if we can just try and live a little bit more like that as human beings, that's also only going to make us feel better as well, isn't it? It kind of comes full circle. So when did you find faith, if you don't mind?
So for me, it's still an ongoing journey. I've kind of always been interested. And a lot of people who come to faith later in life, I think, say that they feel that something's missing and they're kind of looking for it.
I was
In lockdown, I did a lot of reading, and kind of I got into kind of the law of attraction and stuff like that. But I was kind of like, it got to a point and I was thinking, I'm manifesting and I'm putting these things out there into the universe. And I was like, this is just praying. I'm literally praying. Is this a different name for it? So I've kind of been doing some research. I did some Bible studies in 2022. And then most recently in January, I did an Alpha course.
Yes, I love the Alpha courses. They're just so, they are for questioning.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think a lot of neurodivergent people, especially ADHD and autism, and this is something that I'm still struggling with, and I kind of have a bit of imposter syndrome when I say I'm a Christian, because my faith isn't as strong as a lot of people, and that is because a lot of us are quite black and white thinkers, and we also suffer with object permanence. So for me, if I can't see something, I struggle to remember that it exists or even believe that it exists. So even like if a loved one of mine goes on holiday, I struggle to feel that love. And that can be like someone who I've physically been with and experienced love for 20 years. It's just been away for a week and I don't feel it.
Wow.
So for me, I did get to a point where I was like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to have a relationship with God, because I don't experience love unless it's in my face. So that's kind of been a struggle, but I read the Bible every day. I've kind of got this app where it gives you kind of a
Bible app.
I've got a Bible app,
which
helps, and I've been kind of learning it. And I think I believe that my faith will strengthen as time goes on.
And I will say, Liv, that we're all a work in progress, and I honestly do not know a Christian that doesn't feel like you're feeling. Like I feel it. We always feel like we could do more and be better. But isn't that an amazing space to be in, that we want to have a closer relationship with God? We want to walk with Jesus more. Do you know what I mean? We want that wanting. And that's why Jesus died on the cross. That's why, you know, to remove our sins and to help us on that. So I honestly think that as I've gone, you know, further in my journey as well, I've always tried to think of, isn't that a great thing that I'm always yearning to and do more and try and reframe it? Because I mean, you're doing better than me, babe. I don't read the Bible every day, and
and that's okay as well.
I know, but honestly, like sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm a bad Christian. I'm not reading. I'm ignoring my Bible notifications. You know what I mean, on my watch, and I'm like, oh, I should have done that. And I actually have at 12:30 every day, it pops up on my watch, like, remember to pray. So as we logged on, so I said a little prayer for the podcast today. So I was, you know, like, make sure this goes well, like it's in your hands. And I wasn't planning to talk about this, but it's just so nice that it naturally comes up. And you know, obviously talking about your ADHD, your faith, and being a performer, do you feel like they all kind of synergize together and just help you within your career?
Yeah, I think they're starting to. Like I said, that my journey with faith is quite a recent one. Especially, I'd say I've only really been taking it seriously this year.
That's exciting. That's so exciting.
It's exciting, and I also think that that's partly due to like a world misunderstanding of the faith. I know people will have different views about it, but for me, like, I don't know about you, but as a performer, we're very much around people who are quite open-minded, and I'm very open-minded. I'm an ally to the LGBT community. I'm kind of very much accepting of everyone and however they identify and what they believe in. And I thought that by saying I'm a Christian, people would think that I'm like kind of, it's hard to explain, but like very much like right wing, this must be the way that you live, and this is, and it kind of shows what I believe in, when actually it isn't that. And now I've kind of learned more about it. It is about love, and like the main thing is like love God, love others, like, and everything else is
acceptance. Again, we said, you know, Jesus surrounded himself with tax collectors who were absolutely ostracized in those times, with prostitutes. Those were his disciples, his friends. Those were his inner circle. Like if the person that literally died for our sins does that, Shouldn't we be doing that? And I feel exactly the same as you. And I think it's super, I'm so glad we're talking about it, because I think it is super important, because there is a societal perception of faith in general, not just Christianity, of faith, of multiple, you know, any faith, that if you are religious, again, I think the word religion is a very loaded. I think faith and religion are different. I know they come hand in hand, but I do think they're different.
100%.
I feel like we do not have the capacity to get into that today, but I do think they can be different. And you know, I think as long as if you believe, you've got hope, you've got faith, you've got grace, and that only makes you a more accepting person. And of course everyone's different, and of course there are gonna be Christians or people of other faiths out there who aren't allies like us, or who don't believe in everything we do. But it doesn't mean all Christians.
Exactly.
And and I feel the same as you. I feel like I'm surrounded by so many people from every background, which I love. I think that only makes me a better person.
Exactly. And in terms of your question of like how the three merge together, I just think there's a quote actually in the Bible that says, I wish I could remember it. It's just something about wisdom and how important wisdom is. And I think so, having faith, and then also knowing my brain and how it works, and being neurodivergent, and then those two things actually help me with my career, because I think I've got so much to learn still, but the more rounded you are as a person, and the more wisdom that you have, the better you are at a job, and any job.
100%. And if you ever want to talk about faith, you know where I am. Like, if you ever want to just check in about anything, I know I still class myself as a new Christian, so I don't know when I'll ever feel like I'm not. But like, please do chat. So I'm so excited for you that you're like in the infancy of this journey, because it's a lovely place to be. And your content that you share kind of online, and like you're sharing a bit more about your faith, I've picked up on that. You're really good, Liv, at resonating with people. What has the response been like from others in the industry, especially those with ADHD? What's that been like? Have you had many responses, many chats?
It's honestly been amazing. I feel so honoured and emotional, actually. I receive a lot of messages kind of saying thank you for what you're doing, like I know that like I'm a performer and I find these things hard, so seeing that I'm not the only person is great, and also seeing that someone who has ADHD or struggles with things can also be successful and complete a contract, which is something that a lot of people don't even think that they'll be able to do, because you know, with the impulsivity, the hyperactivity, or different things, maybe they struggled in school, and seeing me like do well gives them encouragement. So that means so much to me. And also my followers who aren't performers and who follow me just for my ADHD content, I've had lots of people say, oh, thanks to you, I got my ADHD diagnosis, which is amazing. And I think there's so much judgment in terms of people think, oh, everyone thinks they have it. But I don't think people would wait on a 7-year waiting list or pay thousands and thousands of pounds for someone to say you don't have it. So it's like, it's the same thing as there was only like 5%, no, not even 5%, 5 people who were left-handed hundreds of years ago, and now there's someone who's left-handed in every class, just because it's okay to be left-handed. It's exactly
spoken about and it's accepted more.
Exactly.
I was going to ask you about that, actually. Have you had any negativity? So obviously it works both ways on social. No matter what you share, there is going to be the good, the bad, the ugly, right? There's going to be your trolls. So you've had all those positive things, which is just so gorgeous to hear and so great. But have you, on the flip side, have you experienced any negativity?
Yes, I have. I think I'm very lucky that on Instagram I've built quite a nice community, so everyone's kind of quite friendly there. If I ever get a bad comment, I'll have people like, she didn't mean it that way, or whatever. I'll just delete it. Kind of. TikTok's a whole other beast. Everyone trolls on TikTok. Wherever you can't say anything right. I had someone kind of saying, "Oh, I've got polio," and you're going on about like being tired or not concentrating.
And you were like, "Hun, I'm not talking about polio. I'm so sorry for you, but
it's not a contest. This is completely separate. I'm not." No, I definitely do get get some hate.
Mm.
But I actually gave up TikTok for Lent.
Did you? I
Yeah.
love that for you.
Because it is kind of, it can be quite a toxic place.
Not on it. So
That's a
my
good thing because I'm addicted to it.
so I was. So in lockdown, like everyone, I wasn't on TikTok yet, but I got onto it because I was
Yeah.
like, I was barely creating, I was just consuming. And even though there wasn't a lot to do in lockdown, you know, we all lost our jobs in the arts, but I was just consuming absolute trash, like rubbish. Like my algorithm started to be like, I was like, this is numbing my brain. I
Yeah.
am not, and I wasn't, and because it's so smart, I wasn't able to kind of tailor it to like better things to show
Yeah.
me anyway. So because also I was obviously getting that dopamine, I was enjoying it.
Yeah.
I was just like scrolling, and then I was like, right, I've got to delete it. And I went on it briefly again a couple of years ago and changed my TikTok to like a travel TikTok, and
Okay.
I was sharing like mine and Nick's journeys because we travel quite a lot.
Yeah.
And then I had to delete it again because I was uploading just quickly, but then I was just consuming rubbish. So I actually haven't been on it at all in the last few years. And my husband's in marketing and he keeps saying, you need to go on it for your podcast.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know, but I just can't bring myself to.
Yeah. It's so hard. It got to the point where my boyfriend had literally been like, you've sent me about 50 TikToks today. And I was like, I didn't even know that I'd done that. I just scroll and send the ones I find funny. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I've literally sent 50 TikToks in one day. Like I've spent way too much time on it. So yeah, I thought that was actually probably, you know, it's not a traditional thing to give up Lent, but I thought it was probably the most useful for my life because actually it was consuming.
How did you do? Did you do it?
I'm still doing it, and I haven't been on it.
Oh, well done. As in, like, you're still in it. I was going to say, I was like, have you cracked yet?
No.
Oh, well, I'll be praying that you continue.
Thank you.
With it. And do you know what? It might either change your entrance back into it, or you might decide. Do you think you'll ever decide to just drop it?
I think I'll kind of do what you were trying to do in terms of I'll probably post on it still.
Yeah.
Try and not scroll.
Yeah, you know, you can get those I've tried them before, but it doesn't really work with me. You can get those like apps, can't you, where you lock your apps away, or you can like make them turn off at a certain time. I mean, technology, you can always hack back in.
And
like
one thing that's helped me not go on it during Lent is I've literally just moved the app like 4 pages from my homepage.
Not like
because I think naturally I'll have been on an app and then I'll come out of it and just because it's just there. Whereas if I have to go like this, it's more of an active decision.
I'm looking at my phone now because I do that. I'm so bad with, I'm doing something on my phone, even if it's for work, and then I'll just hit Instagram.
Yeah.
So actually, like, I'm not as bad on Instagram as TikTok, because again, it's the algorithm, it just sucks you in. But the one good thing, do you find with TikTok that your content gets further and it gets further reach?
Yes, definitely. I did one video and it got 500,000 views, and I thought that it was really bad. It was just silly. I was just dancing in a granny outfit. and I woke up and it had gone viral, and I had like thousands of comments and 500,000 views. I was like, wow, what, you crazy.
You were like, that's probably my least good work, but we're going to...
Whereas I think out and write all these creative kind of ADHD posts on Instagram, and I'll get kind of a couple thousand views or 100 likes, and I'm like, this is crazy.
I honestly don't. Thing is, I find people love seeing a bit about your personal as well, don't they? Like, I do the same. I'm like, I'm going to curate all these kind of things that are actually about my craft and about my work, and then I put this really stupid reel up of me singing to my cat, and it was like in the morning, my voice was all crackly, I'd just woken up, and I was singing something at her, and she was just reacting in the most perfect way. It made it like a bit of a skit, and I posted it, and it's literally been my most watched reel ever put up.
So funny.
And it's like those natural, spontaneous things. Like, I do wish we were more like that on social media, like what you were saying earlier, going right back about not just showing the polished, showing everything. And, you know, how do you decide and like decipher through the plethora of information and facts on neurodivergency and ADHD? How do you kind of concise it and choose what to put out there to your followers?
I think for me, I don't claim to be an expert, and I
Mm.
have had a lot of messages from people asking for like medication things. I have to say I'm not a doctor, like
Wow.
asking for advice on that. So for me, I'd say I first of all always come from a place of lived experience.
Hmm.
I would never kind of say, well, I try to avoid statements like all ADHDers
Yeah.
will always experience this.
Yeah.
It's more of general statements that I then say, this is what I kind of
Yeah.
go through. But also I have done a lot of reading, big reader, so I've kind of read a lot of books, and I will try and kind of fact check also. So if I say, oh, this is because of my ADHD, I make sure I do a quick Google search and just check that other ADHD feel this way as well.
You're so good. That is like, yeah, you're so informed and you're so good. And I do find your content very easy to kind of digest
Thank you.
and kind of, yeah, pick up and relate to and things. And yeah, I just don't know how you do it. I don't know how you balance it all. But we'll put all of your social handles in the kind of the bio, in the bottom of your bio, in the information of this podcast, because yeah, I feel like lots of people are going to resonate with what we've spoken about today. Obviously, you've been in the industry for a little while now, and being in the industry that we're in, we come across very weird situations at times, right? What is the weirdest job, the oddest job that you've ever done? Something that just, pops into your mind when you think, what was that?
For me, it'd probably be being a swing in Friendsicle. So it was a Friends parody musical, which I loved.
Yeah.
But there was one bit in my ensemble track where I had to dress up as a dinosaur and do a kind of a little bit of street dance to
Love
a
that
song
for
of
you.
Rocks. And yeah, it was just so funny that sometimes I'd be performing to hundreds of people and I'd be like, I'm dressed as a dinosaur right now. This is crazy. And then the next night, I'd be Gunther in a little blonde wig.
That is hilarious. So did you literally multi-role all of the characters?
Yeah, so generally day to day, my ensemble track, I played basically all the men's girlfriends,
Yeah.
and a dinosaur, which was crazy. But then I also covered Rachel, Phoebe, Monica, and Gunther.
Oh my goodness. So you
Yeah.
also had a lot of tracks to learn.
5 tracks, and there was also 3 versions of the show. We had an hour version for a City of Culture festival. We did the Edinburgh Fringe, which
Yeah.
was I think a 90-minute version, and then we did a 2.5-hour version, which was on tour. So
2.5 hour. Wow.
yeah, so it was kind of like 15 versions of what I could do each night. And that was before I knew I had ADHD. So looking back, I don't know how I did it.
You hyper focused and fixated.
Yeah. Yeah, just had to fight or flight.
Yeah, you were just in it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And you must think back to that time and think, if I knew what I know now,
Yeah.
and had my coping mechanisms, had my medication, because you do take ADHD
Yeah.
meds, don't you?
I'm kind of on and off it a lot. There's so many
I know.
shortages at the moment, but
I know there's been kind of supply issues just
yeah.
in general in the UK with medication.
Yeah.
God, how's that been, being like on off it?
The adjustment periods, I'm actually on day 3 of being back on it. I'd say like the week before and after I either go on or off it can be a bit tricky, but then generally I do feel better on it, but I can also cope off it as well. It's kind of just aid rather than a necessity.
Yeah, but good for you, like knowing that helps. And exactly what I was saying, going back to the kind of, if you knew what you knew now,
Yeah.
when you were in that performance, like what advice would you give, just kind of in a little nutshell on here, to performers with ADHD or who are neurodivergent, who are navigating our industry?
I'd say go to therapy. That's such a big one because knowing your brain and talking things through just helps rationalize everything. Also, try not to take criticism too personally, and that sounds so simplistic to say, and it's easier said than done. But the minute you kind of master that, or try to, it just makes things a bit easier. And also just find the joy in life and in the arts as well. It's such a fun job to be able to do, and we're playing for a living. We're creative people, make believe, pretend. So just finding the gratitude and the thankfulness in that as well.
Oh, that's so nice. And you've hit the nail on the head there with a lot of things are easier said than done. But as soon as we start to think about ourselves and look inward, and I think not always outward for the gratification and the, we're actors, we love an applause, that's why a lot of the time that's why we do what we do. We love that instant gratification, but actually that's not real life all the time. And being able to find the gratification in other ways and within yourself, I think is like super important. And I promise, guys, everyone listening to this is not a self-help podcast. But I think it's just really nice to talk about, isn't it? And what's next for you in kind of your career and your content creation? Like what's next?
So I am going to be in a show on BBC this summer. I can't say what it is yet, unfortunately, but
NDA.
Yeah, exactly. So stay tuned for that. Definitely kind of going into TV and film a little bit more. I'm also going to do a bit of presenting, so I'm gonna have a go at that. And finally, also I'm doing a podcast too. This is the first video in my podcast set, but it's nothing to do with the arts. It's actually going to be to do with a lot of empathy. So it's kind of interviewing different people based on something that people have a lot of stereotypes or misunderstand, and kind of leveling with that person and the audience in a way that people can understand and don't feel stupid. Because I think there's so much information, but sometimes it can be too boring to consume.
Oh my gosh. Well, if you want to get me on for Christianity or anything like that, because that's one of the things that would probably fall into that, right? Yeah. I'd love to. That's so exciting. Do you have a name for it? Yeah.
I do, but I haven't announced it yet.
Oh, she's teasing us. She's not letting us have it. Well, before I put this episode out into the world, I'll let you know. And if you've got it by then, we'll write that in as well, and we'll shout about it. But obviously, if you follow Olivia on socials, you'll see the announcement and you'll see it. But that's so exciting. I think I adore it when people are creating podcasts, because
it's such a fun way.
I did
learn and talk.
Yes, and I did this for that. Like, isn't it so nice that we've got to reconnect? Like, I'm so lucky that I've come across so many brilliant creatives in the industry, one way or another. Me and Liv actually met in London pre-COVID, doing some promo work, didn't we? Love it. And just get into, and we've kind of kept briefly in contact via socials with the odd like and chat, but it's just so nice to get a full 50 minutes together to talk about all things industry and all things life within that. So well done for taking the leap. I was sat on my idea for a podcast for a long time until I finally did it, and I'm so pleased I did. So I hope you are too.
Oh, yes, 100%. It's been so great to be on your podcast. It's amazing.
Thank you so much, for coming on to Part of the Arts. I hope you've had as much fun as I've had. I could literally talk to you all day.
You too.
Take care.
Oh, thank you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Part of the Arts. If you enjoyed this episode or any of the others, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Also, we would love it if you could support this passion project by buying us a coffee. All the info is below. Thank you, and see you next time.